How's it going, everybody? I hope you're all having an amazing day. This video, I'm going to do some speculating on whether or not Pokemon could be coming into Multiversus. This speculation is based off of a possible teaser that Player First Games just tweeted out, and I'm going to need your guys' help here because the copyright availability of Pokemon IPs, or any of the Nintendo IPs for that matter, is really murky water, and I very well could get some of the information wrong, but hopefully collectively we can figure out if this is even possible. I'm going to do my best here in this video to explain the logistics behind why or why not Pokemon could even be coming into Multiversus. If you enjoy this video, help me out by hitting that like button, but let's go ahead and cut this plug and get right into it. So to start off, I'm going to break down the tweet and point out the blatantly obvious ties that it has to Pokemon. Player First Games tweeted out, Raindog uses Love Leash. It's super effective. And I don't see this being anything other than a nod to Pokemon, but is Pokemon coming into Multiversus even a possibility? I mean, Multiversus is a competing platform fighter to Nintendo's Smash Bros, and at the moment, Multiversus is not even on the Nintendo platform.
Hello? Yeah? Oh, sure. It's for you.
So the question is, would Nintendo let Multiversus pay for a Pokemon IP for a competing game?
You serious?
And my knee-jerk reaction is absolutely not. Nintendo is beyond stingy with their IP's exclusivity, but the answer is not really as straightforward as that, and this is where everything really gets very up in the air because Nintendo are not the sole owners of the Pokemon IP. IP stands for intellectual property, in case you didn't know, which would be all right because I would have never guessed that Pokemon's IP is actually jointly owned by possibly 4 different companies. I'm gonna do my best here to try and explain this, at least how I understand it. If I am misconstruing any of the information, please let me know down in the comments. But the 3 companies that share the Pokemon IP are Nintendo, Game Freak, and Creatures. The exact percentages each company owns is not known, but if you dig into the history of the first Pokemon, apparently it started with Game Freak, who got some funding from Nintendo. Then later on down the line, they needed extra funding, which is where Creatures came into play. So Game Freak was developing the game, Nintendo helped fund the game. Later on down the line, Game Freak needed extra funding. And since Nintendo and Game Freak were the first 2 companies in on it, people presume that Nintendo owns at least 50% of the IP, if not more. Whereas in Game Freak would have also owned 50% until they sold some of their percentage to Creatures for extra funding. Do I still have you? Good, because this is where the 4th company gets thrown into the mix as a completely confusing stick in the wheel of what we had going here, which is called the Pokemon Company. And from what I've been able to gather, the Pokemon Company is actually owned by Nintendo, Game Freak, and Creatures, and the Pokemon Company is the company that manages the IP licenses and everything like that. So for all intensive purposes, we can look at the Pokemon Company as the Pokemon IP itself. It's the company which sells the Pokemon brand, and I'm assuming it only does so with the permission of the 3 parent companies. So Multiversus and Player First Games would have to strike a deal that all 3 companies agreed on, unless for some reason Creatures and Game Freak own more than 50% of the shares. If Game Freak and Creatures owned, say, 51% of the shares, they could sell the rights to the IP to Player First Games, which would then allow Player First Games to use a Pokemon as a character without Nintendo's say. But if Nintendo owns 50% or more, then honestly, I just don't see Tony or Player First Games being able to pull that deal off. But if you look at Pokemon Go, for example, which is owned by Niantic, which is a completely different company, but fun fact about Niantic, they also developed a game called Ingress, which just so happens to be the favorite game of the head of the Pokemon Company, but that really is all irrelevant information because Pokemon Go is a mobile game which does not already compete with Nintendo. If anything, it would just expand Nintendo and Pokemon's reach, so I'm sure that was actually a really sell to the parent companies. My point Point being though, that Pokemon branching outside of Nintendo has, in some ways, been done before. So while it's a complete long shot, it still could be a possibility. Let me know what you guys think down in the comments. Could Tony and Player First Games pull out some sort of miracle deal with Nintendo to allow the Pokemon IP onto a competing game, or is this just a big old nothing burger? Also, let me know if I had any of the information backwards, because it really is all over the place as to who owns how much of the Pokemon IP. But that is all of the information that I have to go over in this video. I hope you guys all have an amazing day. I'm out.